It's that time again. The PlayStation Store is having yet another awesome flash sale, and they've got some great games discounted. In this video, we're going to take a look at 10 of the deals available, and all of these are under $10. Tomorrow, we'll upload a video going over some of the more expensive games that are still fantastic deals, but this game, we're going to go over the ones for those of you on a really tight budget. And even if you're on a tight budget, these are some fantastic games, so let's get right into this. First up, a staple to any PlayStation library, you gotta have the Uncharted Nathan Drake collection for $8. Uncharted is possibly the most iconic franchise in the entire PlayStation library right now. Naughty Dog is an exceptionally talented studio, and while in my opinion their best game was The Last of Us, I wouldn't hold it against you if you preferred Uncharted, and Uncharted the Nathan Drake collection compiles all 3 Uncharted games released on the PlayStation 3, now with better visuals, higher frame rate, better technical performance, all that good stuff. The only somewhat downside is, yes, it does take away the multiplayer in Uncharted 2 and Uncharted 3, but that's not too big of a deal because the single player modes are still very high quality. Now do keep in mind that the first Uncharted game was released all the way back in 2007 and it doesn't hold up as well. Still a pretty good game. However, Uncharted 2 and Uncharted 3 are still great games, and to get all 3 for $8 in one collection, fantastic pickup. Next up, Assassin's Creed 4 Black Flag for $9.89. Assassin's Creed is a really weird franchise. A lot of gamers say it's very stale, but whenever they release a game that's of relatively high quality, the perception of the franchise just immediately changes. We saw that in 2017 with AC Origins, and if you go back to 2013, on the launch of the PlayStation 4, you saw that with Assassin's Creed 4 Black Flag. Black Flag was an exceptionally well-made game from a visual standpoint. It looked great. The main character in Edward Kenway is awesome. He's arguably the best and most engaging character that the franchise has ever seen. Yes, I know, Ezio is great too, but there was a lot of depth to Edward, and I wish they made another game on him. Unfortunately, that didn't come to fruition, but Black Flag is still a great game with a lot of content, a huge world, albeit not as big as Origins, but Black Flag did release 4 years prior, so cut them some slack. $9.89 is a great pickup for Black Flag, and I would highly recommend it. Dark Souls 2 Scholar of the First Sin for $9.99. Uncharted is a very iconic franchise, Assassin's Creed is an iconic franchise, and of course, Dark Souls is another very iconic franchise that I imagine most of you are aware of. With Dark Souls 2 Scholar of the First Sin, it remasters Dark Souls 2 on the PlayStation 4. You got the DLC content, better visuals, everything you'd expect. In my opinion, Dark Souls 2 is the weakest of the Dark Souls trilogy. I do think most gamers would agree in saying that it's still a great game. That's just a testament to the quality of the first game and the third game. Dark Souls 2 is still great, and at $9.99, whether you're revisiting the game or trying it out for the first time, it's a great pickup. Shadow Warrior for $7.49. Shadow Warrior is a very fast-paced first-person shooter with some swords in there as well. It got a lot of attention on PC, so of course at some point it had to make its way over to the PlayStation 4, and it still embodies all that enjoyment you got out of the PC version. It runs great, looks great, it's a very stylish game, and the one word that embodies Shadow Warrior is fun. It's just a fun game to play, and at $7.49, it's a solid pickup. Saints Row 4 re-elected for $5. I use the word fun to describe Shadow Warrior, but Saints Row 4 is also a very fun game that doesn't require too much investment. Saints Row 4 is the type of game you just turn on and play for a while and you don't think too much about it. It's very zany, and if you are a fan of Saints Row the Third, Saints Row 4 is just more of the same. The studio here did falter a little bit with their recent game in Agents of Mayhem. That game is okay. If you can find it on sale, I would recommend to check that out too, but Saints Row 4 re-elected for $5. You get the base game, you get additional content on top of that. It's a good amount of fun for your money. Prototype for $9.89. Prototype is a game with a little bit of history behind it. It actually released back in 2009, and if you guys weren't around during the time of Prototype's release, there was actually a lot of competition surrounding it right around the time as Infamous. The release of both games were less than 1 month apart, and they were both these open world superhero games, and of course they saw a lot of comparisons, and most would agree that Infamous was the far better game, but Prototype had some fun to it as well. The real drawback to Prototype, even back in 2009, was visually this game was very subpar. They left a lot to be desired, but the game was still a lot of fun. It had some very interesting mechanics and a very interesting story. It's a game that I imagine a lot of you guys missed out on, whether you be a younger gamer or it's just a game you didn't check out back then. Maybe you were too busy playing Infamous, whatever the case may be. Now with the game on the PS4, now that it's $9.89, it's the time to give it a look. The Trine Trilogy for $9. Trine is one of the more notable indie-style games in recent memory. The games have done really well from a commercial standpoint, and that's exactly why why there's been 3 games, and with the Trine Trilogy, you get all 3 of those games. You get Trine Enchanted Edition, Trine 2 Complete Story, as well as Trine 3 The Artifacts of Power. And if you don't know what they are, they're physics-based games of action, puzzles, and platforming. They're set in a storybook-like world, and they have some very artistic visuals. And at this point, I'd imagine that most of you guys have at least played a Trine game, but if you've yet to experience them, the Trine Trilogy for $9, that means each game is $3 a piece, and they've got a relatively decent amount of content to them as well, and you could have some fun cooperatively on top of that. It's a pretty good buy for the price. LocoRoco Remastered for $6. I should also mention that LocoRoco 2 Remastered is available for $7.50, but if you're just trying out LocoRoco for the first time, you can play the first game for a cheaper price. And LocoRoco is not the most complex game in the world. These games were actually released on the PlayStation Portable, and they went relatively under the radar, but really out of nowhere, they were re-released onto the PlayStation 4 in the form of remastered editions, and these are very charming games that is accessible to a wide range of age groups. You got 40 levels in the first LocoRoco game, and they're just very relaxing games, nothing to take extremely seriously, but they're visually and aesthetically very pleasing, and it does run on 4K on a PS4 Pro, so that's pretty good too. $5.99 for the first game or $7.49 for the second game, solid pickups in both regards. Killzone Shadowfall for $5. There is so much I could say about Killzone, especially being a longtime fan of the Killzone series. You wouldn't believe how many hours I put into Killzone 2, so I was very excited for Killzone Shadowfall. It being the marquee launch title for the PlayStation 4, I had high expectations, and I do have to say, those expectations weren't really met, and for those of you that were excited for Shadowfall like me, you'd probably agree. However, there's still a decent game here. The single-player campaign to me was the highlight of the game, and it had a very unique and different premise comparatively to the other Killzone titles, and of course, the standout of Killzone Shadowfall has to be the visuals. Even though it was a launch title, this is arguably one of the top 5 best-looking PlayStation 4 games available now, and to just experience those wonderful visuals, that's worth the price of $5 alone, and the single-player campaign is going to offer you some fun. At this point, the multiplayer may not be as active, and the fact of the matter is, with all of the options for great multiplayer first-person shooters, Killzone Shadowfall is really not the one you should be investing time into, but for $5, it's still a solid buy. And finally, the Banner Saga for $8. I always talk about the Banner Saga as one of those games that I really haven't come to understand why it hasn't gotten more popular than it is. It's an epic Viking-themed tactical RPG with wonderful visuals, great storytelling, great music, just every little detail about the Banner Saga is so well crafted, and those that have played the Banner Saga know how good the games are. They're very well received from a critical standpoint, and of course the game has seen a sequel with the Banner Saga 2, and that game is fantastic as well, but I would recommend to play these games in order. Start out with the first Banner Saga game, and for $8, this is very much a worthwhile experience, and honestly, I would say it's a must-play title, especially if you're into RPGs. So that is going to conclude this video. 10 fantastic deals available as a part of the PlayStation Store flash sale going on right now. As I mentioned, we will be covering more expensive deals in a video tomorrow, so stay on the lookout for that for those of you with a bigger budget to work with. For those of you on a tight budget of under $10, well, these are some fantastic games. Let us know the games you're checking out in the comments section down below. Thank you for watching, and goodbye.